Hello, this is the record of a slow person. I am a truly slow person. Whether it's walking or eating, I'm always a beat behind others. While others are already far ahead, crossing the finish line, I often find myself alone thinking, what am I doing here? Right now, have you ever had such thoughts? Isn't it too late to start now? Isn't my life already over here? I also ask myself this question every night. In America, there was an elderly man who started a new challenge after turning 60. I lost all my possessions and all I had left was an old truck and a chicken recipe. But after 1,008 rejections, I succeeded as the founder of KFC, Colonel Sanders. People laughed at him for being too late, but he eventually succeeded. Being over 60 is not too late. Let's discuss this person next time. But today I want to talk about someone similar. I was late, wandered around, and failed miserably several times. But ultimately, this is the story of Byung-chul, the founder of Samsung, who created Samsung and reached the highest point of the Kospi Index in 2020, said that in order to succeed, these three things are absolutely necessary. If these three elements of success hadn't existed, Samsung as we know it might not have existed today. What exactly are those three elements? When I think of Byung-chul now, the first image that comes to mind is that of a cold and sharp-eyed rational manager. However, his youth was completely different from the image we know. He wasn't someone who started off on a smooth path, with a genius sense from the beginning. Rather, he was more like a slow young man who wandered on the road for a long time, not knowing where to go. He was once deeply immersed in gambling, and despite being the head of a household, there was a time when he spent meaningless days and nights gambling. Honestly, it's really hard to understand. From today's perspective, I also occasionally slack off, but fortunately I haven't fallen into gambling. If that were the case, I would probably have been kicked out of my house right away. In this regard, I'm a bit better than Byung-chul. Ha ha! He returned after giving up on studying abroad in Japan and drifted like a ship that had lost its destination. In the early dawn, leaving behind the musty air of the gambling den, all that greets me is the heavy silence of my family and the cold morning air. Even for Chairman Byung-chul, a decisive moment arrived when life came to a standstill. One day he sees children joyfully in the yard, watching their carefree faces, laughing and chatting. Without a worry in the world, he feels as if he has been struck on the head with a hammer, freezing in place. Am I really living properly? Right now, this short question completely changed his life. That day, he quit gambling and left his past self behind, and he received 300 sacks of rice from his father to start his first business, a rice mill, which surprisingly turned out to be a huge success. He definitely had the skills of a businessman. I gained confidence thinking, this is indeed my path. However, success always brings along the guest. He is fully committed to diving into the larger real estate business. However, the results were completely different from before. With the outbreak of the Second Sino-Japanese War, the system shifted to a wartime regime, and bank loans were completely cut off. As the funding dried up, the castle he had painstakingly built crumbled like a sandcastle. Overnight, he became a failure. Sitting on a mountain of debt, in the empty office, holding the demand letter, he painfully realized business is not something that can be achieved solely by one's own abilities. I have learned through personal experience that luck must be on your side, and it takes strength to patiently wait for that luck to arrive. he finally faced his slow steps of failure head-on from the depths of his life. He lost everything, but instead of fleeing to the gambling table, like before, he started over. In a small shop in Daegu in 1938, was the beginning of Samsung Sanghoe. It contains a heartfelt wish to shine, bright and long like the stars in the night sky. The caution that only those who have experienced failure can possess has now become his greatest weapon. He no longer rushed to match the pace of others. After that, Samsung Sangho went through Cheiljedang and Cheil Industries, leading to the electronics industry everyone at the time said was impossible. It's already too late. There were criticisms saying, without technology, it will fail, but he remained unshaken. He had already become incredibly resilient through countless failures. At that time, the opposition around him was really strong. His determination was even stronger. As time passed, the seeds of semiconductors sprouted in the barren land, and today Samsung, as we know it, has risen. For him, success was not simply about making a lot of money. It was the process of rising up after failure and ultimately reaching a destination with one's own beliefs. He was not a genius bestowed by the heavens, but a person who endured and overcame until the end. The three conditions for success that he emphasized throughout his life, as mentioned in the opening, are exactly these. It is undungun. The first is yun. It is the humility to trust only in my abilities, without being arrogant, and to wait for the heaven's will in meeting the right time. The second is dullness. Sometimes it may seem foolishly dull, but it is a heavy strength that is not easily swayed by criticism or trends around it. The third is muscle. It is the perseverance that keeps its place until the end, no matter what storms blow, like a deeply rooted tree. I am not a genius. I am just someone who endured until the end. The trajectory of his twisted life is all contained in these three characters. I still walk slower than others. However, following Chairman Lee Byung-chul's record has made me once again convinced that it's okay to be a little slow. Even if I once wandered deeply and failed miserably, it is possible to start again. What really matters is not the speed at which you go quickly, but the determination to keep going until the end without stopping. Do you perhaps feel that you are behind others right now? Do you feel an endless sense of urgency when you hear about someone else's success? Please remember, it's still absolutely not too late. Are those of you watching this video feeling lucky? Please leave a comment about the parts of your life that you think you were lucky in. I hope we can create good luck together in the future. We can go at our own pace. It's okay if it's not fast. What's much more important is to go all the way. In the next video, I will talk about KFC founder, Colonel Sanders, whom I briefly introduced today. His pace may be slower than most of the people watching this video. However, I created the KFC franchise that everyone knows and has tried at least once, and I will document the secrets of its success. I hope we can walk together in the next story as well. It seemed slow until now, but it was never slow. It was the record of a slow person.